Okay, how are y'all doing? Good? Happy Friday. Okay, today we're going to be talking about the terminal. It's not something I will quiz you on or test you over. I just think it's an important thing to be able to learn if you do want to choose the path of going to tech and being a software engineer. So yeah, it's just a fun lecture, but we actually have a quiz, you all know that, and then we'll go into this. But first, I want to introduce Lauren. She's sitting in the back right there. She's actually in charge of the whole GIR program. She's letting me come and teach you all, so I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for welcoming me into your classroom. This is my first time visiting FISC, so I'm very excited to be here. What I've seen so far is beautiful. Yeah, as Jessica mentioned, I lead the Google in Residence program, so I've been in this role for about 4 years. So I do the hiring for our instructors. That includes Jessica and then the prior GIRs who you may not have met, but you maybe have heard about from other students in the CS department. I'm happy to be here. I'm here just to kind of see how Jessica's doing, hear any feedback, and just check in on what's going on in class. So thanks again for letting me join you.
Thank you.
Yay, thanks Lauren. You can totally ask her questions about anything if you want to. I'm sure she's happy to. Okay, let's get started with our quiz. So, quiz 7, sets and dictionaries. The link is here, it's on EdSTEM. It should be open for you all already. Let me know if you can't see it for whatever reason, try to refresh. And then once you all are there, I'm going to start the timer. Can you all see it? Okay. I'm going to start it. Less than 5 minutes left. Okay, that's time. Make sure everything that's commented out should be commented out and the function you've defined. I know some of you had some issues with that. Well, some people had commented stuff out, so make sure there's nothing weird commented out or anything. Okay, I'm ending it.
Well, we don't comment anything.
No, but some people accidentally commented their function out, so make sure your function is there. Okay. Okay. I'm moving on. Okay, let's talk about the terminal. So the operating system, the OS of a computer, is the software that's on your machine that helps you do everything on the computer. So it manages like the memory, it manages the space, it manages the hardware, it runs the programs for you. It basically does everything for you on your computer. So if you don't have an operating system, you don't have that software, then that machinery and that hardware, your laptop, it's not going to do anything. So on MacBooks, there will be the Mac operating system, and then for Windows machines or PCs, there's the Windows 11, right, operating system with Microsoft. And then Chromebooks, there's Chrome OS, and then there's also Linux. That is another operating system that is used on several different devices. So for Linux, what's special about this is it's open source. And remember, I've talked about open source before, meaning that anyone can really make changes to this code. So it's really like the developer community is kind of building this all together. So for like Mac OS, Windows, Chrome OS, you have to pay for a license to use it. You have to, therefore, just pay a lot of money to make sure that it works on your computer. But Linux is open source, so it's free, and a lot of people use it. Therefore, it's really reliable because everyone's trying to maintain it and keep it ready for you all to be able to use. So a lot of computer servers in these big data centers that have a bunch of machines running and like air conditioners to cool them down, they will use Linux as their operating system because it's so reliable. And the reason it's so reliable is because everyone's working on it all the time and trying to improve it because it's open source and everyone cares about it. So usually when you connect to a data center or another computer, you do it over a network, right? So when you're accessing a website on the internet, right, you're connecting to a computer that hosts that website, and it's done remotely, right, over some connection, over some network. So there's no screen on these computers, right? There's no UI to access these computers. These are just computers that are running machine code, right, binary code, zeros and ones, on these random machines in huge data centers that have a lot of processing power. So therefore, in order to interact with them, there's no website, right? There's no UI. You use this thing called the terminal. So have you all heard of the terminal before? Who's heard of it before? Raise your hand. Yeah, a lot of you, right? And how many of you have actually used it and interacted with it? I'm imagining less of you, but yeah, probably some of you have seen this stuff before. So you've done stuff with the terminal before. So the terminal is a text-based interface. There's no UI, you just type commands, right? And that's what you do to control a computer. So if I wanted to control a computer in some other world, right, I can use a network and I can write commands to interact with it. But on my own computer too, on my own machine, I could do stuff with it and I could control it using the terminal. So if you want to be a software engineer, if you want to go into tech, if you want to do something technical related, working with hardware and computers, you're going to have to learn how to use the terminal. This is something I never actually learned in class. It's just something I eventually had to learn when I got an internship, right? Or when I started to do my own projects. Because for example, if you use GitHub, you're going to have to learn how to use the terminal, right? And then connect to GitHub servers because GitHub is hosting your code. And that's how you can see it on websites, right? I'll talk more about GitHub and subversion control later in the semester. But yeah, you're going to need to use the terminal to interact with GitHub's computers and push code and pull code too. So other terms that you might hear are like command line or shell. And remember when I told you all that when you built Wordle and you built that personality quiz, right? Those were command line games or command line things. It's called command line because you are programming the computer. You're telling the computer what to do, right? So you're typing in commands to play that game, and the computer, the machine, is running it, right? Technically, I guess Colab, this IDE in the cloud is doing it, but it's still like a command line interface because you're telling the computer what to do with your commands. And then the shell is just the thing that processes those commands and then tells the computer the instructions in zeros and ones of what to do. So it's like the layer between the commands and the computer. Yeah, so those are all kind of interchangeable: command line, shell, and terminal. So Mac operating system, the terminal that they use is built off of Unix, and Linux is similar to that. So Unix was created first as an operating system, and then Linux was created by some random person. I don't know who they are, some European person, I think, and then they made it open source. Yeah. So Unix and the operating system of Mac and how terminal works in a MacBook is very similar to Linux. So if you practice commands in your Mac and open the terminal, then you know how to work Linux, right? But if you have a Windows machine, it's something else. I think it's like command prompt or something like that. So it's not quite the same. But it really is important to learn how to use Linux because so many different machines use Linux as an operating system. It's so standard everywhere that you probably do want to learn it. So ways that you could learn is by using a cloud IDE. So like a text editor in the cloud where you could just practice. So Colab unfortunately doesn't have one, but Replit, if you've heard of Replit, that one does. And then also if you did vscode.dev, you could practice doing VS Code stuff on the cloud and then practice Linux commands and writing commands using the Linux operating system. So just something to keep in mind if you do have a Windows machine and you want to practice using the terminal. Okay, so these are some images. So on my MacBook, this is what the terminal looks like. I will just literally do this and type terminal and it'll open it for me like that. That's how I get to it. And then I can do whatever commands I want there. You can also see the terminal in EdStem. So if you've already gone through Project 2 Part 1, which was just released, right? In the instructions, if you've read them carefully, I told you that the button that runs the code, I configure it to say what file I want to run, right? So if you were writing tests, I would automatically set it for you so that that file would run the test, or that button would run that test file. But because sometimes in this project, you're going to want to run your search engine, but you're also going to want to test it and run that test file, you're going to have to go in the terminal and tell the computer, I guess, EdStem's computer servers that are hosted somewhere, that you want to run that specific file, right? So you're already going to have to learn how to use the terminal and practice. Yeah, so let's try to get familiar with it today so that you're not overwhelmed with it later on. But yeah, you're going to use the terminal already in your project. Okay, so the terminal really helps you, mainly, the simple, most basic commands are to navigate to different directories. That's really all I use it for, is to navigate in my computer in the file structure and then maybe make a file if I want. So I can navigate into different folders, and folders are also known as directories. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that's the terminology, but that is the term that everyone uses, is directories. Maybe because folders is more specific to one computer or something. I don't know. I should look that up. But yeah, they're called directories. And when you run a file that is executable, meaning that it can be converted into binary code, zeros and ones, that your computer can process, you have to be in the correct folder to run it, right? You have to specify the right path. And we've seen that before, right, too? When we upload stuff to Colab, it has to be in that main directory for us to run it. If you put it in some other folder and you try to reference it, the computer's gonna give you what error? You've seen it before, right? File not found. It's gonna say, I can't find what you're trying to tell me to look for. So you can navigate through different folders, you can list the folders, see where you are and see what's inside of it. And you can also create files, create directories, and most importantly, run code, right? So if you had a Python script or a Bash script, Bash is like something with the shell, you can run that executable code using your terminal really efficiently because there's no UI. It's all commands. Make sense?
Yes.
Stop me if you have any questions, okay? But this is all just fun information for you all to know. So no pressure either. Okay, so let's say you're in your current folder, you open the terminal. If you want to see where you are, you can just type pwd. And I think that stands for print working directory. So you can see your current folder. You can use the ls command to list the folders and the files, the subdirectories, if you will, in the one that you're in. So in the directory you're in, if you did ls and hit enter, you would see all the files and all the subdirectories. And then if you did ls-l, oftentimes if you have a command and you do dash something, it means that's an option that you can pass in, or a configuration that is built on top of that command that gives you more help into what you specifically want to do with that command. So -l, for example, would give you a longer format. It would tell you like more information than just the name of the file or the folder. So to really see it in practice, yes, Sydney, what's up?
I was asking, like, so when you get a folder, is getting a folder that you have already saved on your computer?
Yes, and if you wanted to make a new one, you could do that, hit ls, and then see it.
Uh,
So let's show you. Yeah, what's up, Seal?
Yeah, did you say this doesn't work in Colab?
It doesn't work in Colab. I actually tried to see if there's a way that you could use a terminal built in there, but I don't think it has that functionality because Colab is really built for one use case, which is to have an online text editor, but also process data. That's what those notebooks are for. But it's easy for me to share code with you all that way versus Replit because Replit has some trade-offs, but instructors in the year past use Replit. Yeah, so Colab doesn't have it, unfortunately. Not that I can see. But we can just practice using our project. So if you want to follow along, you can. But if you go to your project 2 part 1, and then you hit terminal, you can activate the terminal here. Let me make it bigger.
I think you can click on dots.
I'll just do this. Oh no.
Sorry.
Okay, so here I can already ls, right? I can do pwd to see where I am, and it looks like I'm in home. Right, so if you all want to practice, go ahead and do it, but you can click on your terminal here and then just activate it. So if you type pwd, you should see it tells you that you're in home. And oftentimes if you see the tilde, that's a tilde, right? Yes. Then this symbol, I think it's a tilde, yeah. Then that oftentimes means that you're in your home directory. And home is just the main area you're in. So in a Mac, it's like the directory where you see your desktop and documents and downloads, etc. Right? But for Windows and other operating systems that I don't know, it might be something else. But in our case, home is where EdStem puts us, which makes sense. When you open a terminal, usually it's where you are from the beginning. Okay, so then if you try to hit ls and then enter, you should see all the files in your home directory, right? And you should see that it matches the files that you're given when you open that project. So search.py, wiki.py, search tests, all these different files. So you can verify that that's what you see and you know where you are by typing ls. Okay, any questions or thoughts on that? Yeah, so we're going to talk about it right now. If you want to change where you are, you want to change folders because there's something else you want to run in a different folder, you can cd, standing for change directory, into the folder you want. So again, it's really important to specify that path of where you want to go. So every time you have like an asset uploaded or something and you want your computer to reference it, you have to know that exact path because otherwise it's not going to be able to find where you want to go. So oftentimes I don't really specify the location. I just kind of go up and down, in and out of the directory I'm in. So if I cd and I say cd tilde, that takes me immediately to home because tilde is usually home. If I wanted to go up a directory and go to the parent directory, go up a level, I could do cd ... and then enter and it would take me up one level. So oftentimes I'm usually just doing that. I'll say cd, the directory I want, the subdirectory that I'm in, or I'll do cd ... and just mess around ls, cd, ls to see where I am and then what's in there and then know where to go from there, right? So when you're doing these commands, when you're running these commands, you're literally telling the computer to run this executable that says, okay, I see all these files, I see the hardware, I see all these things, and I can navigate because that's what you're telling me to do with this command. So the computer's literally running code to help you navigate through your file system, which is kind of really cool, right? Okay, so if you want to practice, you can say cd ... and that actually takes you to the root directory. So the root has all of these things. It looks like I've ls into this and I see all these different things. right? A lot of this is stuff I don't even know. It's so low level, machine level code. I don't know how to write that, right? But what's interesting is we can kind of take a look and see what's in the bin folder. So if you want to cd into bin and hit enter, try it and see all the things that are in bin. There are so many things in bin, right? If you try to scroll up, you're gonna see that you have to scroll forever to see everything. So try it out. So what is really in this bin folder? It is executable code, a bunch of different programs that you can run, and it stands for binary, because what is binary code? Zeros and ones, right? And what does the machine know how to read? Just zeros and ones, right? So all that's in this bin folder is a bunch of things that your computer knows how to run. So that means these commands live in there. So if you try to look inside your bin folder, you can literally see ls. You can see pwd, you can see cd. Because these are programs that your computer runs, they're executables that allow you to maneuver through your machine, right? So this folder also includes Python, right? Python is a language, right? But you have to install all the packages and all the things that come with it. So Python 3 is the most updated version of Python. That's the one that most people use, right? So if you looked in your bin folder and scrolled to like where P was, right? You will literally see Python 3 in there. Okay, another fun command, you can type in clear, hit enter, and that clears the terminal and clears everything, right? So you no longer have to scroll, it's just all of it's gone. So if you ever want to reset, you hit clear and then you're good. So if I were to type clear, right, in my project, it would just look like this. So here, if I was like clear, hit enter, right, nothing there. So ls, right, cd, I go to root, ls, I see what's there, cd bin, ls, right? What I just said, all these things are in there, right? And if I went up to P, I would see Python. And then let's say, oh my gosh, look at how much I have to scroll. Do you see my scroll bar here? I don't want to scroll through all this to see whatever I did before. So I can do clear. MongoDB is in there?
I think I saw it.
It probably is in there because bin has so many things that, like maybe there are projects where there's like a database and you want to do stuff with that, then it probably supports MongoDB. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to check time real quick. Okay. So if you wanted to make directories or make different files, you could use these commands. So make dir or make directory, and then you specify the name of the directory. It will create a new directory or a new folder that then you could put files into. If you wanted to remove an entire directory and all of its sub things, sub whatever, then you specify the one you'd want to remove, and then that removes the entire folder. If you want to create a new file, you can do touch and then file name to create a new file, and then rm, remove, to remove that same file. So these are the most common commands that you would probably see and use, and I do these commands all the time. But anything more than that, you probably don't really need to know. So if you want to practice mkdir, you can do this. So if you wanted to create a file or a directory that was testing, you could do that. And if you did ls, you would see testing here, right? So if I did ls, let's go to home. So I do cd tilde ls, and I said mkdir testing. This is making a directory or a folder that's testing. So if I do ls, this editor, this IDE helps me to highlight this testing, saying, okay, that's a directory, not a file. So the highlighting, the coloring kind of helps, right? Okay, so if you wanted to add a file now, let's say into testing, what you could do is this, ls cd testing. So I'm going into that testing folder, right? Now it looks like I'm in testing because you can see that here, right at the bottom. Let's enter to give me some space. Okay, so ls, nothing in there, right? But if I want to add a file, I could do touch and then try me.py or some file. And then I do ls, and now it's there, right? And then if I look at the file structure, I could see testing and then there. So now you can see it in your own file UI, right? Okay, so the last few things, if you run code in a file, you can write some executable command, right, to run that program or run whatever's in there. So if you wanted to update a file, you could use Vim. So you could type Vim to open the file and edit it, but you have to know how to use Vim. So there's a lot of controversy with Vim. A lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. Have you all heard of Vim before? No? Yeah, so it's just another way that you can write code. I forget the word, if it's like a language. I'll look it up. But yeah, Vim is like a way that you can write code, and a lot of people don't like it. But if you did the Vim command, it opens that as an editor in your terminal, and then you can type stuff. But it's very particular in how you can interact with it, and the interface is just really weird. So a lot of people will write configurations to use it. So I, at one point in time, was very determined to learn how to use Vim, and I hated it. I was so slow with everything, but I think there's just this curve that you have to get to, that once you reach it, then you're like, okay, now I'm so efficient. So a lot of Vim users will say, I never want to use a mouse. I never want to use a trackpad. So all they do is type. So that's how they use Vim, in a really proficient way. But you have to like learn how to get in. You have to like train your brain, right, to use it.
It's just like a text editor.
It's, yes, like an editor. But then it's also a command that opens it. Yeah. But it's like way that...
You can open it from your terminal.
Yeah, you can open a file from your terminal using this Vim command. But then you have to know how to use Vim with the keyboard patterns. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's why it's so controversial. So maybe something that you'd have to learn, but you honestly could not learn it and be totally fine. But I just wanted to try it, and it was really frustrating at first, but then it was fine. But if you just want to see the contents of the file, you would do cat space and then the file name. So then you would see in your terminal what it would look like. And then if you wanted to run a file, so run a Python file, you would do Python 3 and then the file name. Okay, I'm capitalizing this. It bothers me. Okay, so you could do cat on any of the files inside your project, right? And then the terminal would literally print it out like that. So it would be printed here, and that's everything that's here in this code, right? So if you were just navigating through your file system, wanted to see what was in that file, you just do cat. Yeah, I've done this a bunch before. And then if you wanted to run Python 3, and just have a Python 3 environment, you could literally type in Python 3, hit enter, and then if you were to, run it without any file, you're not running a specific file, you just start the environment, then you could do any code, right? You could type any Python code. If I wanted to print hello, I would say print hello, and it would just give me what would be printed to the console, right? So if you ever wanted to test code instead of using Colab, right, you could just go to your terminal, type Python 3, and then do whatever you wanted. But maybe your machine doesn't have Python 3 installed, right? So what do you use to install Python 3? You just use your terminal, right? You say, I want to install Python 3 with whatever command you would need to look that up, right? If you want stuff to run on your machine, you tell the machine what you want to do by using your terminal and providing commands, right? Okay, so then if you wanted to stop Python, you could hit exit or type exit, open close parentheses. You could also do command or control D, one of those. The more I know them, the more I just know how to do them, but I forget which one they are. Yeah, I think control C just quits whatever you're running, but it doesn't quit the program or in the environment, so you have to control D or control Z, one of those. I'm sure you'll be familiar with these over time. But yeah, a really fun way to practice using the terminal is by running this game in your browser. So if anyone wants to, you can go ahead and do it. I can show you. Yeah, it's like, welcome. Here's this place you can explore. You can do ls, see where you are. Gives you this. And then let's say I wanted to cd, I don't know, Western Forest? Does it work like this? Oh, okay, ls, see where I am, right? So a really cool interactive kind of game where you can see stuff. So if you want to play it and learn it, do that. But yeah, any questions on the terminal, how to use it, its purpose, whatever, anything? And then later on, when we learn about like Subversion Control and GitHub, we'll come back to this. But if any of you want to set up GitHub and you don't know how to get started, like I'm happy to help you do that, because it's also something that I was so frustrated learning how to do when I was in college, and I had some really good friends show me how to do it. So I'm really happy to walk through it with you if you want. But yeah, if you want to use GitHub, you're gonna have to know how to use a terminal to interact with GitHub, to be able to push code up to the cloud and pull code and work on stuff with each other. Okay. So yeah, if you want to learn GitHub, I'm happy to help you do it. Okay, I'm just checking time. Okay, last thing is some reminders. So just a reminder, this tech challenge we're putting on is in a few weeks. If you want to do it, make sure to RSVP, because we're capping it because there's too many of you and too few of us to run it. So just a reminder that is there. And then retakes. Again, we're doing retakes. So if you want to earn the chance to do a retake, by the end of the weekend, you have to tell me all of the explanations for the answers that you missed. So I know some of you in the past had told me what you'd gotten wrong, and I don't know you got that question wrong, right? You don't have to tell me that you got it wrong, but tell me why is the right answer correct, right? And we did this for our midterm. So in the same way, write a really short explanation telling me that this is how you would get to the right answer the next time if you were to see that problem again. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
How do we see our...
I will release it at the end of today. Yeah. And then the retake will be a different quiz. Yeah. I know in the last 2 weeks we didn't do retakes, so I didn't release it because people were still taking it the next week. So yeah, you'll be able to see it later today. And then yeah, next week, the following week is the only week that you can take that retake. You can't take it further than that. And then just a reminder, you can only earn up to 80% back. Okay, so midterm 2, we all know, is next week, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, there's nothing else you have to worry about. There's no homework. There's no new homework, but the other one is still due Wednesday, right? There's no project 2 part to work on that week. There's no quiz. They're all going to resume the next week. So just focus on the midterm for next week. So another reminder, project 2 part 1. You're going to work in a group of 3. If you haven't figured out a group yet, let me know as soon as possible. I know I've said this before, but no one should be working alone, at least with one other person. So if you haven't found a group, let me know soon. And it is due on Monday. So you still have all of Monday to do it, all of the weekend. But yeah, it's coming up soon. So make sure you have a project. And once it closes on EdStem, that is when it's done. So there's no late submissions for projects. Okay, so homework 8, don't forget, is due next Wednesday. And then midterm 2 will be everything we've learned so far, except for tuples, right? And then nothing about the terminal, of course. But yeah, nothing about tuples. And then we're going to get prepared on Monday doing a review of stuff. So what I want you all to do is fill out this form telling me what you want to review the most. So if there's any specific question you want me to review or go over, let me know, and I'm happy to go over it. But just tell me what you all want for that class to make it more useful for you. Yeah? So fill out the form. Yeah.
For the second midterm, why is it going to be the same time? Like,
It's the exact same format. Yeah.
so the duration of the time is
Exactly the same. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Monica, what's up?
It's about the directory and creating new files.
It's about the what? Data?
Directory
Oh, directory. Yeah.
files. So do you consider directory as a folder?
Yeah, directory and folder are kind of the same thing, but the most often term you'll hear it be referenced as is a directory. But it's the same way. Like the folder structure is the same way as like directory and subdirectory.
So inside that directory, if you want to make a file, like create another directory.
You can. You just do cd into that directory, make dir, right? Then it'll make another one.
Making a file in that directory.
Yes, exactly. So making like folders and subfolders. Yeah. Okay, do y'all fill out this form? What are y'all doing? Playing the game? Okay, so updates on midterm 2. Remember that if you do better on midterm 2, it means I know that you've improved in midterm 1, so I'll replace your grade. I know I've said this a bunch, but just reminding you. And then don't forget, STEP is open, so don't forget to apply. I think all of you should apply. And then your letter grades for your midterm will be available at the end of next week. I just really wanted your project one grade to be incorporated into it, including the test. And I've like distributed grading, so I just didn't want to rush the Googler TAs that I have to grade. So end of next week is when you should be able to see your letter grade. But if you're curious, you can come to my office and ask, and I'm happy to share the grade that I've given you for your midterm. But yeah, it doesn't really matter though. But if you just want to gauge how you're doing, I'm sure you all know kind of how you're doing with your grades you've seen so far. But if you're curious about the letter grade, you can come ask me. Okay, and then if you want extra support, don't forget that my Googler TAs are there to help you. But also, there's a set of the career coaches, right, that I've shared with all of you all that can help you with like mock interviews, if you have online assessments coming up, or if you have interviews coming up, or resume review, whatever. There's so many more people you can choose from and you can have a conversation with. I know Manoj has met with all of my TAs, right? And so if you want to meet with more Googlers.
Yeah, I signed up for one.
Oh, you have already? Okay, cool. Yeah, Manoj is on top of it. But yeah, they're there for you. And I think it is really important to connect with people and to learn from other people, especially if you want to get into tech. So yeah, if you want, they are there. Just a reminder. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, like clarifying questions on the exam or the project or your grade or whatever. Or email me. Okay. Have a good weekend, or I'll see you later today during my office hours.